We are using AI quite a bit. We're rolling it out a bit more on our education. We're rolling it out internally. We're using it to help our compliance team. We're rolling it out more in our customer service, and we're doing a lot of internal processes using it.
How do we educate the public about the risks of options trading?
I feel great about the fact that so many more people participate in the markets than they did, 20, 25 years ago. And obviously COVID and the meme stock craze helped all that. But I think what really set the path for that was all the education we've done over the last 20, 25 years or so, going out, meeting retail clients, really trying to explain to them, how options work, what are the risks, et cetera. As we've continued to do that, if you think about your career, my career, we went from quarterlies to monthlies to weeklies, and now we have daily expirations. And so with that, it's just a new take, if you will, on the same products, but it does change the risk profiles in terms of, the amount of theta, how volatility works on the options, et cetera. So we've had to make sure that we continue to educate our clients on all these separate products, on how the time frame works for them. I think one of the nice things about the daily expirations is that we've done them on index products, which takes away some of the aftermarket risk that we may see, and cash settled on some of them, and the other ones, because they're ETFs. If Apple has earnings, 100% of Apple is moving. Only, about 3.5%, maybe even a little high on that, in theory, of the S&P 500 is going to move. So it takes away some of that risk overall. That said, I think you constantly have to educate, because there are always new people coming in. And as I look at the average age of our client, it continues to get a little bit lower. That makes me feel really good. People understand the value, even if it's just to enhance a return of how options can help their portfolio.
How many of your users would know what Theta is if you asked?
TastyTrade, I think our audience is a little bit unique because so many of them engage with our network and Tasty Live. And you think, Tom Sosnoff's obviously been an incredible pioneer, in my opinion, and what's going on in the retail industry. Spends a lot of time all day talking about the risks in options. And I think in general, a lot of our clients understand it, because we talk a lot about not only buying options, but selling risk-defined spreads in options, so that people can understand that, Theta can hurt you. Theta can be your best friend. Most people, as we know, start out, buy that out of the money call. Maybe the stock goes up, but yet they still lose money, and they're like, I got screwed. And then they start to understand really quickly how Theta starts to work. It's why one of the most important lessons that a retail trader can ever take away is please, please, please start as small as possible. There'll be enough pain and suffering as one contract as there is in 10, and you can start to understand some of the concepts in real time.
How does TastyTrade educate people?
Our education is done a number of different ways. Obviously, as the attention span of most people has shortened pretty significantly, in my opinion, over the last 15 or 20 years. You have to hook people a little bit more with social media than you ever had to in the past. If you think about when we started doing this, it was all live shows, long-form videos, long-form articles. By the way, those are still important, particularly the live shows. We just did one 3 weeks ago in New York. We had 500 people. There is something about the interaction there. People want to come up, shake your hand, actually, get to meet you or hear the story in person. I think those are great, but they're not as scalable, obviously. Using social media, using YouTube has made things incredibly scalable. So we have Tasty Live, and we do 11 and a half hours of live programming every single day. And we do, repeats afterwards. We run things all weekend long. We do a show every Sunday night starting at 4:50, Central Time, because we want to be open when the future's open on Sunday night, help people navigate the week. Again, we want to give you as much education as possible on what's coming on.
What risks are you most concerned about that are consequences of the industry's growth?
You're always concerned about the client experience and clients understanding the risks they're taking. It's one of the reasons we do spend so much time in education. We want people to understand risk. It's why we always talk about defining your risk up front. risk-defined spreads, etc. Know what you can lose going in. And, when you've been doing this long enough, you realize that knowing what you can lose going in makes the rest so much easier. You've defined worst case scenario. Once you know how bad it can get, everything else seems pretty good. And so I think when people learn to do that is when they learn how to stop losing money. Many options traders have come to realize is that if you do this to hit singles, you can make a really nice return on your investment. You don't have those trades that blow you up, and doing a lot smaller size and maybe a little more frequently risk-defined trades. And the only reason I say more frequently, I want to be clear about that, is because when you do that, you interact more with the market. So rather than doing a 10 lot, I think you're better off doing 10 one lots, only because you're interacting more with the market. You're starting to understand how the market works. As you start to get more confident, you think you understand, then 5 twos. And I keep limiting it that way. But starting out, I would do smaller amounts more frequently just so you get the experience of doing it. It's just like golfing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And then you can start to make adjustments as you understand that. So that part of the education is, of course, always number one. Then number two, I think one of the risks we're seeing, we talked about the short-dated options a moment ago, and the short-dated options is something that has gotten a lot of media attention, obviously. It is something we have to be concerned about. Keeping it to indices and ETFs for now is good. As an industry, we're trying to find a way that we can get this into individual names because clients are asking for it. That said, what I love is the industry is actually coming together to point out what are some of the good things about it, but what are some of the things that are keeping us from going? The concept of assignment and exercise, and more importantly, do not exercise after the close. For the average retail client, market closes at 4 p.m. Eastern, 4:30, they're watching Jeopardy. Whereas you think about the market making firms, as they should, they hire people to watch every earnings, everything after the close. They may do something called do not exercise. That is a foreign concept, much as we try and educate, that's a foreign concept to most retail traders. So again, we're trying to figure this out so everybody's on a fair playing ground. And once they are, I think it's going to be a great product.
Are your futures traders the same people as your options traders?
Our futures trader, by and large, is a more advanced options trader who started to learn how to use all the different products. I think as your education progresses, you start to understand more. The products become interchangeable to you in a way. Yes, they have different profiles and a little bit different risks depending on which one. But I think the ultimate goal for somebody who really wants to be a self-directed trader should be, I have all these arrows in my quiver. I can use whichever one is appropriate at the time. And you look at just something like S&P options cash, S&P futures options. Many of our clients will use those at different times depending on what's going on. To them, it doesn't really matter as much. They may be measuring, the margin on one and the liquidity of one versus the other. And once they decide, okay, this is the one that works for me in this particular situation, because those volatilities are always going to be similar, they start to use it.
What products or services are customers asking for today?
Buy a future, just making it up. They may buy the S&P, sell the Russell on a ratio, things like that. Or they may hedge their position overall, and this is where we see a big usage. I'm long a lot of S&P related stocks. There's a news, tomorrow we have the Fed meeting. Maybe somebody's like, I'm a little nervous about the Fed, so I don't want to close out all these positions I have because of tax reasons or other reasons, so I'm going to sell a future or whatever the appropriate amount is. We have the tools on our platform to help you figure that out. I'm going to sell some futures against my position so I can hedge my risk. I'm willing to give up some upside to protect myself with some downside. And again, as people become more and more experienced, they start to learn the tools are great. None of them is better than the other. It's just a matter of, do you understand the risk that goes along with them? And once you do, it's a wonderful world.
What is new at TastyTrade?
We've seen a lot of smaller products. Talked a lot already about the short-dated options. That is something they love in the Apples and Teslas of the world. So sometimes people don't know what they don't know, and I think they don't know what some of the ramifications of that would be. And so we don't want to put our industry in a bad space, so we'll get there eventually. I think the one area right now where we're seeing demand, and it really seems to be caught up in a little bit of I'll call it government gray area, and that is options on the new crypto ETFs. Because again, they're such the crypto itself is such a highly priced product, and the ETFs seem to be getting, two of them in particular are really getting a lot of interest, getting a lot of volume. I've been raised my whole life to be risk defined. It's much easier to do risk defined using options than it is to just buying or selling an underlying product. We're going to have Tasty at IG. Our parent company IG is based out of the UK, and our headquarters are in London. And so we're going to have the TastyTrade products and TastyTrade software, et cetera. We'll go with our web-based to start and our mobile in the UK, so that our UK-based clients can use that to trade back to the US products. The other thing that I think is really exciting is we built some really interesting backtesting tools that we're about to roll out. And I think backtesting, has been done too often by people in a vacuum. So we're going to make sure that it's not done in a vacuum, but more real life type situations, as well as some of the fundamental information, et cetera, that we're going to upgrade pretty significantly on our platform. That's really exciting to me also on what we're going to do. We spent a lot of time on our mobile devices, and so the mobile devices just keep getting better and better. We were the top ranked, I believe, of all the self-directed brokerage firms on our iOS system. So we really want to continue to develop that and really take the lead there, because, again, we want to make sure that clients can do what they want when they want. And as we become a more 24-hour world in terms of trading, you got to make sure that clients and around the world ourselves in trading, these things become more and more important.